Good to see everybody.
Seeing you. Already warned Shawn that this is a little bit of a late arriving group, so we'll give it another minute or so and catch the last few stragglers and
That's perfect.
jump in here.
So I hear there's a storm coming.
There's always a storm coming.
It's Florida. And hitting the summer, usually heavy downfall, downpours between 2 and 4 p.m.
We need the rain really bad.
Yeah.
Downside is it looks like it's gonna take that southerly swing, which means it's gonna miss my house on the north side there. At least that was the last thing I read. That's a few hours old. So, hey Troy.
That the party store become empty, you know there's a storm coming.
Hello, everybody. Hey, Jeff.
Wow. Hey, Troy.
I keep forgetting I'm mute. How are you, Ed? Good to see you.
You too, man.
Been a while. Hey, Richard, I thought you told me you retired at NAB.
I am.
You're just still got to stay in touch and learn things, though, huh?
I got to tell you, it is a breath of fresh air to get online here with you guys and see all the faces again. Because the big thing that I do miss is the group of engineers that we have. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, hey, the SBE here in Missouri, in St. Louis, pales to what we have down there.
Wow.
The meetings we have usually consists of 5 people, and I'm one of them.
Oh, wow.
Most of them are radio guys too.
Well, we can tell you're retired because of the relaxed, serene face.
It's low.
Yeah, the glow. The lack of stress.
But all his hair grew back.
No,
All right. Well, we'll just jump right in here. I got a little bit of an agenda. See where we're at. Kind of run through a few things. We'll probably have to send out a few more emails because obviously we're missing a pretty good number of folks, but we'll get them caught up. Anyway, finally, got together a meeting here. Been chasing Shawn down for a couple of months there and trying to get schedules and whatnot going. All right. I don't think I've got too much on old business other than elections, and I'll get into that in just one second here. I want to introduce Gabriel Spears. Abe on here is he's new. He's actually still filling out the membership info, but a couple of quick things here. Gabe and I were chatting, and I've chatted a little bit. Gabe's over at channel 45 there with Mike. Talked a little bit with Mike, and he's fairly new and definitely interested in joining our group. And it was proposed a couple of months ago on another conversation that maybe the chapter would sponsor him. I've talked a little bit on the technical professional training program that SBE has. And maybe we sponsor Gabe for that. We've got a couple of people here at WFTV that have started into that. It's a little slow start. I think they're working out some things with the mentorship program, but I wanted to put that out to see if there's any objections, thoughts. We want to make a motion and move forward with something like that. discussion?
not.
Fine with that.
So, what was that, Steve? You were a little faint.
I said I'm okay with that.
Oh, it's $500 and it's in the checking account. So something I think we can cover. It covers membership and gets them in the mentoring program with SBE, as well as a kind of a course outline there of webinars that are on the website, and some other educational materials. So cool.
Well, I think anything that can help and bring up a new engineer is definitely worth the investment. I think it's a good idea.
See a few head nods in agreement. So, all right, we'll proceed with that. And Gabe,
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Look forward to working with you.
the other thing is he is also interested in helping out and jumping into the treasurer seat, which I've been doing a few years for a while. And I'm more than happy to hand it off to him. I did talk to him a little bit about that as well, and we'll probably go through and need to do an audit. So I'll get with Dave Palmera and Jim Kaufman there, the other officers, and we'll make sure everything's handed over and pristine, because I know there's some bank information that needs to change, and I think there's some bank fees and that on the checking account that I have not accounted for, just out of everything being scattered right now. But we'll make sure that he gets a nice clean start and everybody knows exactly where all the dollars are. So, and we'll proceed with that. And that's kind of what I was saying with elections there. Once Gabe's a member and can, hold an office, we'll do a formal vote there, if that's okay. I know that's not exactly how the structure is supposed to run, but we'll get it as close to it as we can and try to get back on track with things. So, all right, there's that. Mailing list. We talked a little bit about moving that to SBE will host the mailing list for us. Trying to pick that project back up. It got started, and then we've got a couple questions there that still need to get answered from the corporate office. But there's also a lot of old emails on there, so try to clean some of that up. And I'm assuming everyone that is on here got emails or received the invite there. So we'll try to track down the new ones and let folks know, hey, we're going to make this change, and find a way to update that. And if you talk to anybody, if they want to shoot an email over to me or to the group there, that we can, with a new update, that would be appreciated. That way we can clean that up a bit. So, and then in-person meetings. The SBE corporate is kind of pushing to get chapters to go back into in-person meetings. They wanted to make some things official, but nothing ever really came of that as far as setting a deadline. But also wanted to gauge everyone's thoughts about restarting in-person meetings here in Orlando. Maybe something for Q3 or October, November meetings. I know these Zoom things are kind of convenient, but maybe if we did one a quarter in person.
These are awful convenient, but it is so nice to be able to sit down with everybody, like Richard was saying. Of course, if we do them in person, then Richard's got to travel a long way to.
You can build up some frequent flyer miles.
That is true.
we'll look for you to be here, but the in-person meetings are really nice. You get to know people, you get to talk to them. It's a little less personable this way.
And I think for most of them, we can set it up where we can have an online presence there for folks that are out of town, like Richard. You know, Shawn can come and hang out with us anytime, and I see Alan over in Tampa. So, Ed, you always drive down, so.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I was muted. I needed to multitask and eat lunch before this, so.
Okay. Not a problem, not a problem. So, all right, well, more on that as we refresh the mailing list. We'll send out some emails and get some more feedback on that, and we'll maybe restart some in-person stuff here later this year. All right, and last but not least, our website, our PORSAD website there. The domain name, we kind of let that go because we didn't really have a much of a website. The person that was working on us moved to Dayton on us, and are working for us on the website moved to Dayton. And apparently the SBE 42.org that we had, somebody snatched that up, and I don't know if they think they're holding it hostage or not. There's other domain variations that are completely available. If we decide we want to change it, I'm gonna I'll post some objections to that and say, hey, we have a claim to that, and this person kind of stole it. But if they really want to keep it, and, I don't know that we really absolutely need to buy it back for the few $100s they're asking for it, when you can put a dash in there and get it for $20 for the year from GoDaddy. So anyway, just let everybody know about that. SBE is also they're doing a workshop later this month on a from the chapter that has the award-winning website for SBE. Their web design guys is going to do a little workshop there on setting up a website there for a chapter, some of the things that they do and how they've got that set up. So don't know if we have anybody that's interested in sitting in on that. I'm going to try to make it, but I will dig up the information if somebody would like to sit in and maybe help revive that the website there. So. Okay. That's everything I had on my agenda. Other new business or old business that needs to be brought up from anyone?
I'll let Shawn, I don't want to steal his thunder, but we're going to do SMPTE in December. Same place. We're getting everything rocking and rolling. So sort of put it on your calendar if possible. We're going to try to get back to in-person meetings too at some point.
No, that'll be good. And looking forward to that December show. That'll be nice. All right then. Well, without taking up too much more time here, we'll make Shawn the host here so he can share his screen and hand it over to Shawn Maynard from Florical. I think most of you know him. If you don't, I will let him give all the details.
Yeah. Well,
Take it away.
thank you, Jeff, for having me and allowing me to do this presentation. Just as a little bit of disclaimer, I am not a Google Cloud architect or an AWS architect. I'm not necessarily a cloud guru per se, but this is more of a conversation of where are things going, and kind of the good and the positive, or the good, bad, and ugly of the cloud. So I'm, Shawn Maynard. I'm the Senior Vice President of Florical Systems. We are an automation company, master control automation and playout company. And this topic of playout from the cloud is directly relevant to us, and something that we're actively involved in and moving toward the future of that. And, when it comes to cloud, I'm going to do a little bit of basic 101. So those that are intimately familiar with the cloud and maybe are architects, I apologize in advance that this might be a little bit elementary, but I think it's good to understand the history of the cloud and how it evolves, and then talk about the requirements in master control and how we get from on-prem to the cloud, and et cetera. So when we look at the cloud, we think it's new technology, but in reality, we're going way back, 1960s, and all the way to 1977 when the cloud symbol was used. So the cloud is not necessarily new as far as technology. The platform and its use today is certainly something to be interested in, and the evolution toward that. So what is the cloud? At its basic, cloud computing is storage, processing power, and applications. So most of us, when we think about the cloud, we think about storage because that's been the low-hanging fruit that's been utilized over the years. And, we all utilize cloud storage to some degree, whether it's through your smartphone, storing your photos and et cetera, or file sharing and et cetera. But what's been more that we've seen more movement toward is using it for services and et cetera. But cloud, when we talk about it, most people talk about cloud specifically, but cloud is really a large umbrella with a plethora of different services and tools. I like to think of it as a toolbox filled with various different tools that's used for different applications. So there's really three parts of the cloud that we're going to discuss a little bit here and distinguish between them. Is the cloud can be broken up and thought of as an infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And when we look at the differences between, you can see kind of, from the chart here, that the infrastructure as a service is really, data centers and et cetera, that's allowing the hosting of those things. Platform as a service is providing a lot of different resources and tools to be able to own, the process, like a lot of software development tools and et cetera are in that. And then software as a service, which has been extremely popular buzzword in our industry, is that everybody's looking for someone to take over, the control of applications, et cetera. So next, to break out the difference between each one of these things, think of it as a washing machine. Infrastructure of a service is your washing machine at home. It's an end-to-end washing, drying, managed by you, need to be arranged for detergent, softener on your own, et cetera. The platform as a service is a self-service washing machines, no need for washing machine detergent, et cetera, provides additional added service. And then the software as a service is you call a laundry service and the laundryman comes and picks up and returns clothes, no need for washing machine, et cetera. So that's a distinctive that I think is very important, that when you think of the cloud, which portion are you going to dive into? And then let me jump into master control. Master control is more than just play out. There's a lot involved in master control. It's really the bottom of the funnel of three different processes, from acquisition of content, managing that content, and then the presentation, which is the play out of that content. And I always like to think of it as a funnel, that all these different departments that's providing data and input into the process of what you put on the air. All of those different departments all aggregate into one tip of the funnel, and that's master control. So when we think about going to the cloud, we're not just thinking about, can I play video from the cloud? That is a very elementary portion and view of it. Sure, I can play video from the cloud. We've actually been playing video from the cloud for over a decade, in OTT services and et cetera. So playing from the cloud is not necessarily the goal. When we're thinking about automation, we're really thinking about your entire master control infrastructure and workflows and et cetera. Can that be done from the cloud? And when we think about it on those terms, we run into some interesting, things. So here's a interesting little chart. The difference between your on-premise or versus, putting things in the cloud. What do you want to do? So on premises, and think of it as a car. I can go to the car dealership, buy a car, and own that car, and I can use 100% of that car. I can drive it as much as I want or as little as I want. And when you think of the cloud, then it's trading your car in and deciding to Uber. And every time I drive it, I pay, but if I don't drive it, then I don't have to pay. So in that respect, think of it as this: you're on-prem. When you buy equipment to build a master control infrastructure, you are buying 100% of the maximum capability that you will need for playout. Whether you utilize that maximum ability or not, you need to buy 100% of that. And realistically, of that computer, because computers have gotten cheaper, realistically, the use of that computer, depending on its application, you might be using 10% or 20%, but you paid for 100% of that computer that's on premises. But not only that, you also have to consider the energy that equipment takes, the cooling, the electric bill for that, the maintenance of that equipment, the refreshing of that equipment, and et cetera. And you can identify from this chart, the blue is things that you touch and manage, and the orange are things that's managed for you. So as you move into an infrastructure as a service, you can see that virtualization and servers and storage and networking are all things that's handled within the cloud environment. And those things that you manage is the operating system, middleware, runtime, et cetera, and the applications. And then as you get deeper into the platform as a service, more things are handled for you. And then software as a service is handled for you completely. So that's the distinctive of that. Now, I want to dive in because Florical has been in existence for 37 years as a software company. And so we've been developing software all the way back from the DOS days. And as we know, software development has radically changed. Computers have gotten faster. According to Moore's law, they'll continue to do so, and which has enabled a lot of different functionality where we've had I would say, revolution, if you would, over the past decade and a half of the replacement of purpose-built hardware in the television industry to off-the-shelf hardware, commodity off-the-shelf hardware. So computers have been replacing, and more software-centric approaches have been replacing purpose-built hardware for the past decade and a half, for sure. And it's been quite a revolution in that. Now, it hasn't completely eliminated everything that's in your television plant, but for the most part, go back 30 years ago, the requirements for an engineer is not necessarily the requirements that you're looking for today when you hire a new engineer. You're looking for someone who understands computers and IT and networking and et cetera. But let me dive into the cloud infrastructure a little bit, because when you're developing according to a platform, so for us, we develop in the Microsoft environment, and we develop toward Microsoft machines, computers. And we understand that Microsoft provides some underlying technology within their operating system, and we can build applications to take advantage of those things and use that infrastructure. And that has been kind of labeled, if you would, as when you build an application, you're building monolithic applications, which means it's built in entirety for its purpose, and it can be installed on that platform and fully utilized on that platform. But when we talk about developing in the cloud environment, now we're talking microservices. Microservices are individual, single-purposed services that are created to do one thing. For example, I can have a service that all it does is moves file from folder A to folder B. And that's all that service does, is just move from A to B all day long. And that's its only purpose. And then you need more processes in place managing those individual microservices to build a workflow and a process. So you have things within this all the way down to the physical layer, which are the actual computers in a data center. People kind of joke that the cloud is just somebody else's computer. Not entirely, but it is another computer that's utilized in a data network environment. You have a virtual layer, for companies like VMware that provides, virtualization and containers that provide resources available to take advantage of those physical layer. And then you have a control layer. The control for applications is communication between various different microservices, and the orchestration layer is more of your think of it as the maestro, if you would, that's organizing the band and all the individual instruments to create music, and to make sure that that's where your workflow and the equivalent of a monolithic application built in software is being managed from that. And the service layer, being able to interact with that and to manage those things. But notice you also have kind of side processes. Side processes includes the service management layer, and then also business continuity layer and security layer. So that's something that I think is really interesting in the fact that security is not inherent within the software, but it's a side process looking into your software. And that leads me to my next step to talk about cybersecurity, protecting your content. That's the thing that nobody wants to talk about, but we all have to talk about. cybersecurity, it's a real issue. And when we're thinking about public cloud, it's something that we have to keep on the forefront of our mind. Just looking at this chart, in 2021, these are the major public cloud outages, that occurred just in 2021. If I would go back and do a 10-year snapshot, you would get a little nervous, and you're thinking, do I want to trust all my eggs in this basket? Now, I'm not trying to be negative about the cloud, but it's cybersecurity, and the availability of the cloud is something that has to be in consideration as we move forward to this as a platform, moving from on-premise hardware that we have purchased, capital purchase and used, to a public cloud environment or something in between. And if you look at the cloud outage statistics in 2021, what was the biggest failure to cause these? Human error. Second to that was updates and patches. So 44% server room issues. So we definitely have, even though it's in a data center and can be distributed over geographical regions and et cetera, you're not immune to things that you would suffer in a local environment. The North American Broadcasters Association has been doing a lot of work aggregating best practices in this case. So I give a link to that at the bottom. If anybody's familiar with the North American, they publish their information. For vendors, there's some guiding principles to look at, to say, here's things to ensure that you are following best practices for security measures. For cloud vendors or going into the cloud, these are things that you want to make sure that they're handling properly. And then for broadcasting unions, the EBU has published an assessment of that as well. Now, on to what we have done in the cloud and some of the things that I think are the lowest hanging fruit of moving forward. I do want to say this, that the difference between cloud technology and the regular IT technology, computers have evolved and they get faster and faster, which is enabling you to do more with the computers that you have on-prem and et cetera. And that environment has been known. People have developed within that environment, creating software within that environment. And in a lot of ways, the IT evolution of technology has coincided with the media and entertainment industry's requirements. So they have kind of been on the same path for many years to make sure that the requirements that's needed in the media and entertainment, in particular television industry, have been developed, whether we are driving it or not. The IT, computer world is driving a lot of that evolution, and we take advantage of it. That is not the case when we're talking about the cloud. If we are not in the sandbox, nobody is on their own building media and entertainment sandcastles. You have to be involved in some way of dipping your foot into the cloud in order to drive the industry and your requirements within that environment. They're not going to be built on their own, which meaning that if the industry as a whole said, well, we don't think the cloud is ready, we'll revisit it in 5 years. What they'll find in 5 years is that their requirements are still not available because the rest of the industry is not building according to media and entertainment and television requirements. They're building to their own requirements in this environment. It's a very different environment. But that being said, I think dipping your foot into the cloud the lowest hanging fruit is disaster recovery, is being able to move play out and emergency play out to a cloud environment for, OTT services, or, for pure disaster recovery, and, something that lays somewhat dormant. It's like paying an insurance policy. You're paying a minimum, and for the opportunity that if you need to spin up a channel to run it for 24, 48, a week because you got hit by a hurricane or whatever, you can operate a channel out of the cloud. Go a little deeper. You can start to look at whether it's, Florical or master control automation or any of your processes, start to look at what can be virtualized. You can take monolithic software built within an environment and you can move that in a VM environment, and you can host that into either a private cloud in your own data center infrastructure or in a public cloud environment. And if they have built it right in the software, they're communicating via APIs to on-prem equipment, and that can continue to happen. So migrating into virtual machine, I think, is the next logical step. And then we'll start to see your content being, and we're already seeing this, being enabled and moved via cloud services. We've been doing this for a while. And then a hybrid approach where I have, let's say, what we would call in our world an X and Y system, a primary and backup system. You can think of a system where I have on-prem a primary system and a backup system in the cloud that's running parallel. Or I have a main over-the-air system and I have my OTT systems all in the cloud-based, using the same software set, same automation, and et cetera. So those are things that we're doing. And you keep in sync your local database with your cloud database and local storage with your cloud storage, and you send those things out. And then the ultimate is everything is cloud native and playing out of fully cloud services. We as a company are not there yet. We have, some applications, but most of those things are not cloud native. That takes time. I showed the infrastructure of rebuilding. You have to, it's called, decomposing. They've labeled it kind of like in a compost type thing. You take your monolithic process, you put it in a VM, and you start decomposing, break it apart, and create microservices that emulate that process. And then you go into a complete Microsoft centric, cloud native application where it's truly utilizing the public cloud and their services for all they're worth. We're not there yet. Like I said, it's we're taking a very cautious approach. There's still things that need to be figured out on especially from the public cloud. We're a part of a group called Open Services Alliance, which is a standards best practice group that are working on some of the large issues for media and entertainment industry. One of the things that we ran into, which was surprising when we started this a couple of years ago, of the OSA, is from the microservice level, there was no standardization of error reporting. So if a microservice is having a problem, it's not moving from folder A to folder B. We can have some control services or even orchestration level services that can say, all right, well, this guy is having a problem. Let me restart a new instance of it, and et cetera. You can have that, but nothing standardized in the way of reporting. And we have tools in our environment in a television facility that I can take test measurement tools and enter into the system and see what's going on. There's not quite the same equivalent in the cloud environment. So we have to create those. So one of the first papers that we created in the OSA and pushed up to SMPTE, and now it's a SMPTE case, is dealing with a standardized error reporting for microservices being used for media and entertainment. So eventually you can have a dashboard of a tool that shows the health of your product. Right now, those have to be hand created. The other thing is that you have to start considering how efficient each one of these microservices are, because if you trade in your car and you now utilize Uber, you want to make sure that that Uber driver is getting you from point A to point B, since it's costing you money, as efficiently as possible, because it's costing you time and money. And when it comes to software development, some people are better than others, and sloppy development will literally cost you in the cloud. You can have a service that's very chatty, that utilizes a lot of resources, and every time that 0 goes to 1, you can hear the cash register, chirp. So, cha-ching, 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 it's costing you every time a disk spins. So that's something to consider, as you move forward in cloud native environment. Oh, well, I reached the end. I know I zoomed through that pretty quick. I can go back to any slides, but I want to open it up to any questions that you might have. But let me end by this. As far as where we are in the cloud evolution, we have a lot of early adopters that are starting with OTT channels or secondary channels and things that are very light channels that don't change. And I think that's the right movement, is to take non-dynamic channels or non-live news channels, and you can start to look at opportunities to move them into a cloud environment, if it makes sense on a business level and cost. So I'll open up the floor to any questions. Or I might have been so thorough that nobody has any questions.
I was going to ask about cost. Do you see a sort of a standard break-even point, or is it just, I know there's going to be a little bit of variation case by case, but is there hey, if a station or a station group gets to this point, then the costs are going to be generally this, and that's where you start to make money with it? Or
I don't know if that's really the intent or the goal, because again, it's trading in your car that you can use as much as you want, to Uber. The difference though with playout, especially master control playout, is that most of all the variables are known. Right? What you do on a day in, day out basis. When people sell cloud services, they're mostly telling you the advantage. Hey, if you don't use that service, it's not costing you anything. Only when you spin it up and start using it. Mm-hmm. Well, in a master control environment, we use our resources every day, the same amount every day. So it's really a fixed cost that will be utilized in the cloud every day. Now, the difference is if I need to spin up a channel for whatever reason, and it's a temporary channel. Let's say in the case of the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, and you wanted to create a 24/7 channel of talking heads talking about, the trial that went on for 6 weeks. And, you need to spin up a separate Johnny and Amber channel that runs for 6 weeks. Well, in that case, the cloud is the best environment to run, because if you wanted to do it on-prem, I would have to buy all the equipment to run a separate channel for a temporary basis. And now I've already sunk that cost. And all right, now I have some equipment to run a channel again, but if I never run a channel again, that's lost money. So in that case, the cloud is an advantage. But on your day in and day out, there's very little advantage of being on-prem versus cloud, or cloud versus on-prem, because the costs are pretty much fixed. In other words, the resources that it's using is pretty much fixed. Will it be cheaper in the cloud? I don't know if I've seen that, especially when it comes to managing of content, because every time you touch something in the cloud, that comes at a cost. Let me give you an example. Political season. We usually have a process where somebody wants to see a political ad that just ran on the channel to make sure it doesn't violate something, or somebody called in and said, hey, I don't think you're running the right thing. Let's pull it up and let's take a look at it. In your current on-prem environment, that cost you zero, because you already paid for that equipment in a capital expense manner. So I can call up video and I can play video as much as I want. And it doesn't cost a thing because I've already paid for it. Just in the same way of a car that I'm already paid for. If I want to go on a road trip, I can drive it as much as I want, and it doesn't cost me any more a month than my monthly payment. In the cloud environment, touching, every time you touch that piece of video, you're spinning that disk and it's costing you. So those are workflow processes that you have to consider to say, all right, well, political season, we have a lot of salespeople that want to review things. Is the cloud right for us, or how do we manage it? How do we control that cost center? And those are things that you have to consider in your practice. But to think that the cloud automatically is cheaper, or if there's some sort of tipping point, I don't think I see that, because it's pretty much a one-to-one. The difference is I'm exchanging CapEx for OpEx, because that bill comes every month according to what I used. Whereas CapEx, I buy it, it's a bulk purchase, pretty big price tag, but over a period of time, it depreciates and you get a ROI. In a cloud environment, that cost center will never go to zero. You're paying some sort of charge for utilization every month for what you're doing, and that price may never go down, which I think for a TV station is a real struggle, because cash flow, you can have a May where you have ratings and you have the network doing prime television and you can get a lot of cash. But in a July, the TV station may not be making a whole lot of money, but that cloud bill comes every month and you're still paying whether you have cash or not. So those are financial decisions that you have to make through the process.
Fair enough. Makes sense.
I do think that things are moving, especially from a vendor side, of wanting to move to this platform. not because it's cheaper or better, because it's more serviceable. Meaning that if I create an update to my software, currently I need to be in contact with everybody running my software on all the platforms around, the world, and saying, hey, I have an update, let's coordinate putting that patch in. Whereas in a cloud environment, I can patch it once and it's available for all clients. So from a vendor side of view, for serviceable software, it's very attractive. But I would say the big challenge that we're running into for the cloud currently, for more dynamic channels where you have breaking news and fast log changes and quick turnarounds and things like that, the cloud may not be the best environment because some of our requirements are not fully enabled in the cloud today. And we're seeing quite a few gaps. We feel like we're standing at a crossroads that either I build on-prem to the left or I go to the cloud to the right. But there's a big gap to the right where I have to start building a bridge in order to take that right turn. And I think that's where we are now. A lot of people were working on that bridge, but there's some things that's not quite fully fleshed out, like timing, to be deterministic in the cloud, and is things that are still being worked on, enabling SMPTE 2059 in a cloud environment, creating a grandmaster time service to be deterministic, because as an object storage, you can't do really multicast in a cloud environment. There's no such concept as you do in a networked environment on-prem. I can multicast time and send it all across, broadcast it all across my network. In the cloud environment, everything has to be individualized in microservices, which means I have to create a service, one to generate time and another one to constantly read that time and to know where to read that time. And everybody has to know where to read that, time of all the services. So there's some challenges there that's still being worked on. Any other questions? If that's it, I'll say thank you, and feel free to reach out to me. And as Ed alluded to, that the SMPTE chapter, for the state of Florida, we are having our annual conference in December, our December symposium, and that will be December 6th and 7th at the Hilton in Altamont Springs. More information will be coming out. If you're on our distribution list, our email list, you'll get information. But and we're talking with Jeff. There's things that I would love for us to partner with SBE, especially with some meetings and gatherings and et cetera, and do some things there. Thank you.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you very much. That was I got a half a page of notes. So some good info there, and a lot to consider, and I'm sure all of us are in various stages of how we deal with this, whether it's for master control or just the business machines. So
Right.
Oh, appreciate it. All right then. Well, anybody have any other last questions, comments?
I just want to know how you go to the patch panel through the cloud.
There is no equivalent. that's some of the things that OSA is thinking about reporting and management and insight. Because right now it's really up to each vendor to create their own patch panel, so to speak, of how to manage their services. It's a little bit of a nightmare, a little bit of a wild, wild west.
Very good. Thanks, guys. Good seeing all.
Yeah, good seeing you.
Yes, good seeing everybody.
All right, thank you guys very much.
You have this recorded and
Thank
we'll
you.
send out that info.
Thank you.
Well, all right. Thanks again, Shawn.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate
Hey,
it.
good to see you, Mike.
Hey, man.
Hey, Mike,
Hey, what's up?
I
Mike
upgraded
made it.
my analyzer.
Oh. For you.
Yeah, I gave up on Enritsu. I went to Copper Mountain.
Oh, okay. You were talking about that last time. Okay, we got to come up with some work for you.
Love to do it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see all you guys. Miss you
Good
guys.
job, Shawn.
Thank
Did a
you.
Great job.
Thank you for helping out Gabe, guys. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. Looking
All right.
forward to having him as part of the group.
Yeah,
Gabe's not a rookie anymore.
Nah, try not to be.
he does all the work, man. I just kind of hang around. That's kind of cool.
There you go.
Rookie rules no longer apply.
See you guys.
All right, we'll see you.